Just in case you couldn't tell from the title or the thumbnail of this video, today we're going to be playing with compressed charcoal sticks. So welcome back everybody, I'm excited for another video. It's literally my favorite thing in the world to play with a new type of art. So first we're going to test them out. I'm just rubbing on the side there to see how that works, testing and blending with my finger. And now I'm going to draw a couple lines. It's kind of hard to get a thin line with these because they are so thick. You're going to want to use a charcoal pencil if you need thin lines or precise details. So I've got my blending stick, testing out how that works. It works very well. One of my favorite things about this charcoal is the way it blends and the way it builds up. So we're going to test and see how dark we can get it here. We can get it one of the darkest blacks I've ever seen with sketching, because with a pencil you can't get it quite that dark. Now I've also got a kneadable eraser. You can see on the top there it's got some loose charcoal, so the eraser kind of just smears it. It's much easier to erase a part that's been blended out. So I've got all my supplies and we think we're ready to get to the sketch. Whenever I'm using a supply for the first time, I like to do a very basic drawing, usually like a still life with just one subject. So we're going to be going with probably the most popular choice among artists for still life, and that is a piece of fruit. So I've got a pear sketched out on the page, and I'm starting with the shadow since that's the most basic. And as you can see, when I'm blending here, it's actually making it darker, because when you first draw on the page with the compressed charcoal, it kind of leaves loose pigments. So when you're blending, you're just pushing them into the paper and it's creating more depth. As if you're blending away from where you put it onto the paper, it's gonna blend out like you would think it would. So you can kind of see that here. Then I'm pulling it out and it's getting a lot lighter. For some reason, I just really love blending things. So I just am having too much fun with this charcoal here. I don't know why I've never used it before. When you're sketching with a pencil, you can do, a little blending. You can blend, and I thought I was blending, but now that I've used this, I can never go back to just sketching with a pencil. Unless I'm using a charcoal pencil, which I'm very excited to get some of those. Because this stick, it is a little hard to work with, maneuver. It's so big. I think it's meant for bigger artwork and much less precise. I've seen a lot of real dirty, almost abstract portraits done with it that are beautiful. Anything that I've seen that's realistic or precise is usually done with vine charcoal or just a charcoal pencil. But I have these, I found them that I bought from the one art class I took years and years ago. I found them in the bottom of an art box, so I just pulled them out and I had to try them out. I'm also going to be doing a sketch of a glass of water just to show you how you can use these on a sketch that doesn't require so much shading and gradient. You'll see when I start doing that, I'll explain it. But for this pear, did I go with a peach earlier? I might have. For this, it's a lot of gradient and blending and shading, like I said. So you're just going to be kind of going back and adding, deepening it up like I am right there, and just blending it out slowly, creating gradients. If you start off with a sketch and you really sketch out where the shadows are, where the light is, and all of that, really anyone can do this. You just want to kind of have 3 areas. You're going to want to mark where the light is, where the midtones are, and where the deepest darks are. So the one mistake I would say, if going back I wouldn't do next time, is when I did that shadow on the top of the pear, I did straight lines and like a straight shape cut out real harshly, because I was so excited on how well they blended. I thought I would just blend it out, but they aren't magic. There is still a limit. So I would have I fixed it now, and that shadow, the very dark on the top of the bottom, fades nicely, but I did have to work a little bit and go back and kind of make some corrections because I put a very harsh line in there. Now I'm just adding some finishing touches with a pencil, but that is the finished pear. So next we are going to do the glass of water, and for this I want to show you guys how you can use charcoal on a pencil sketch. So for the majority of this sketch I'm going to be using regular graphite pencil, and then for the deepest blacks I'm going to add some charcoal. So with the pencil we're going to make sure that we mark all the spots where the charcoal is going to go, and we mark all the spots that need to stay white, because it's very important. You can't go back after the charcoal is down and add the white the way you could with a pencil. It'll never go back to being the light enough. You can blend it and erase it and make it lighter, but you can't, those very white highlights, you can't add those after. So you're gonna see with my sketch I'm gonna add a lot of little circles and shapes. It looks like I don't need quite that many, but it is important that you do that. While I work on that, let me just give you a little bit of a rundown, some tips and tricks on using charcoal, some of which I'm doing in this video and some things that I'm not doing. So the first most important thing is going to be the supplies, and the supplies that I have is the compressed charcoal stick, the blending stump, pencils, and a kneadable eraser. A couple things that I don't have is charcoal pencils, fine charcoal, or even white charcoal. They have that in the stick and in the pencils. And the last thing is a lot of people like to use gray sketch paper, because as you can see mine's getting a little dirty around the edges, so some people like to use a darker paper. The most important technique of using charcoal is going to be correctly using value, and that is something that I am showing you in this video, because every time you use charcoal you use value. Value is basically from light to dark. If 1 was white, then 10 would be black, and 5 would be the midtones of gray. So if you're using charcoal, it's going to teach you the importance of value. Now, a little tip side note on the value issue, you can kind of play around with values. Now, I'm not doing this in this video because I do not have a background or multiple things in this sketch. I only have one thing. But if you had a person, say, standing in front of a landscape, you could kind of play with the values so that he was darker than the background. Even if in real life there was some darker things behind him, you could make those more of a mid-tone. That way he doesn't get lost and the whole paper doesn't have a lot of that deep charcoal. He can become a real focal point if you just play around with the value. Our last tip is going to be the same tip as any new art supply. You're just going to want to practice, get the hang of it, get the feel for it. You're going to want to really learn how these charcoals lay down and how well they blend out. So here is the water glass completed, and here are my final works from my first time ever using charcoal. Pretty proud of myself, and I'm definitely going to use them again. Go ahead and check out some of my other videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next weekend.